Awesome. Well, guys, peoples, brothers, welcome to our fifth annual alumni panel for FRAC. Can't believe we've been at this 5 years. And uh, first panel of its kind, not just our typical alumni panel, but all the panelists this time around are honorary initiates of the fraternity. So that's a very exclusive group of the fraternity, and can't wait to hear kind of their journey, their experiences, and yeah, this is a very unique club that we're honored to have. And I think when me and Cody talked about the name Deltasig by honor, it's one of those what's really the honor part about it, because I look at everyone just as a brother, but there's got to be something special about it, right? So starting off, we'll start going from the West Coast to the East Coast. Barry, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Barry Altman. I'm in the Western Province. I was initiated, God, 3 years ago, I think. It all kind of blends together. And my wife is Tracy Taplin, who's been a brother since the early 2000s. I've been around the fraternity since the early 2000s when Tracy and I started going out. We were a few months in when I went to Palm Springs Grand Chapter. And that was my first exposure. And it's been an adventure ever since.
Awesome. And which chapter initiated you?
Long Beach Pier 9 alumni.
Wait, is that the? I should know that because I was part of it, but did we?
Right.
You know what? Not even gonna ask right now. We'll get to that one later. Uh, moving back word east, Karen.
I'm Karen Coe. I'm Tony's spousal unit. So I've been around Delta Sigma Pi since he was pledging. We were engaged when he was pledging. So it was a long time ago. I'm not sure I want to say the year, but his chapter was an all-male chapter. And I already had graduated from a different university, a private Christian university. So we didn't have Greek life there at all. And Adrian Avalos was our friend from high school. And he was Tony's big brother in the fraternity. And then, we moved all over and we ended up here in San Antonio. Tony was the district director for UTSA chapter, and I think I baked cookies for a meet the chapter night or something like that. I don't know. And just, I've always just really been supportive, the fraternity's always been a real priority to Tony. And so, and then they asked me, did I want to be an honorary initiate? And I was, very honored. And that's when I was initiated. So I was initiated in UTSA's chapter, Omicron Phi. And I don't know exactly what year that was. No, but I couldn't tell you for sure what year. I know my initiate number, but I don't know what year it was. So
That's awesome, Karen. I honestly I didn't know you were an honorary initiate until I think James or somebody told me. So that was pretty shocking since you've been around so long. But I guess it's just that part around we're doing the panelists. So you never know who's an honorary initiate, right?
right.
Well, and also their daughter and son-in-law are both Deltasigs too.
Right.
True. It's a whole family affair. I
It
saw that
really,
from Houston, come to think of it. But I think going more eastward, that'd be Ohio. So that's you, Mindy.
All right, so do you want me to follow the list of how to introduce myself?
Yeah, or
Uh,
you can go off script as well. I mean, knowing who your husband is, you're
all
you
right,
probably dead. I mean, hey,
Mindy Kuhn here. We live in Ohio, Findlay, Ohio right now. I'm originally from New Orleans, Louisiana. James, my husband, is originally from Hurricane, West Virginia. And I guess I'll try to make a long story a little shorter. After we got married, he still wanted to attend Marshall. Um, and he was an initiate for a couple years. I have a story very similar to Karen, by the way. We were married though when he was initiate, and there was only a couple members at the Marshall chapter. Like Arnel kind of talked about that a little bit ago, but there were only a few, so they were struggling. They were doing like traveling bake sales and all sorts of things to try to get people to be interested. So I did a lot of the help on the side, including like buying this giant roller chest that they could keep all their stuff in because they didn't even have that. They had this big tote that they were carrying by hand. And I just thought they looked really stupid wearing like nice business outfits carrying this big stupid tote. So I bought a roller one. Just participated in a lot of things. So then they asked me, since I was there all the time, if I wanted to be an honorary. So I did. That was in 2010. So I think only a couple years after James. I was number 86, and I always will remember that because Sidney Crosby is my favorite hockey player. So I'm one below Sid. Um, I don't mind being under that number. So current alumni chapter, I don't really have that, just wherever we go. So Cincinnati, really, I guess. And my profession and industry is I'm a crude quality analyst, or if I'm in Ohio, I probably should say the crude quality analyst for Marathon Petroleum. So that's kind of my story.
One, because I love James and love you, I'll forgive the whole Pittsburgh Penguins situation with Sidney Crosby. Two, we love you, Mindy, because we all love James and we all know you're the one that keeps him sane. So thank you for that. Hey, you still mad at me about that whole sending him soup when he was in COVID thing? Or I should
That was
just
the scariest thing that's happened to me in Findlay, Ohio.
we'll get to that story later, but hopefully she forgives me by now. uh moving more eastward, the honorary initiate himself, the first person for the longest time, the only honorary initiate I knew existed in the fraternity, and the person that when Cody and us decided to do this panel, everyone said we had to have you, the man himself, DJ Arnel Balcita.
I'm Arnel Balcita. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I was initiated fall of 2003. I was initiated because my ex-wife was RVP of the Allegheny region that preceded Steel Valley. And I would go to all these events with her. I went to my first GCC was 2001 up in Buffalo/Niagara. And I remember going to GCC, and ever since then, my ex-wife would bring me to events all the time. She'd bring me to chapter meetings all the time. She was DD of several chapters also, and she got tired of asking me to leave the room. And whenever I became involved with the chapter, we had become friends with the current national koi, Jason Griffiths. And literally, my ex-wife just turned to Jason and turned to Sparky Graves and just said, "Arnel's a business major, at least out of DeVry. He started at Penn State. He finished his degree. He's finishing his degree. Can we get him initiated so I don't have to kick him out of meetings anymore?" And it happened. It happened that fall. As far as current alumni chapter, I believe I'm a paying member on Chicago Alumni's roster. I twice I've been president of the Pittsburgh Alumni chapter, which is currently defunct. I've been with the Sherwin-Williams Company for about 28 years. Yes, Pittsburgh boy working for a Cleveland company. And other than that, Mindy 86 is a good number because that means that Yarmer Yager was wearing his numbers in the wrong direction. He's 68. Otherwise, and yes, I DJ weddings on the side. In the past month, I DJ'd Jeannie Saffron's wedding. That's her maiden name. I got to remember that. And Joe Rock's wedding. So it's been.
Awesome. I can definitely say Arnel, until someone told me you were an honorary initiate, I did not know you were honorary, which was yeah. If anyone says an honorary initiate or honorary Delta Sig, I say, well, technically Arnel is, but there's nothing honorary about him. Uh, and last but not least, I think the newest, if not the newest, one of the newest honorary initiates into the fraternity, Paul King.
Hi, I'm Paul King. I live in Norfolk, Virginia, originally from Athens, Georgia, though. And I got involved with the fraternity around 2017 when my wife Sarah was a member of the Alpha Tau chapter at Mercer University. I don't really know what this means, but she and her roommate, who was the chapter president at the time, told me I made points her senior year. So that's fun, and that's kind of how I got started with the fraternity. And then I was initiated in the spring by the Chi Omega chapter at Old Dominion University here in Norfolk. Currently, Sarah and I are both members and on the exec of the Hampton Roads Alumni chapter. She's serving as president and I'm serving as the VPCO, which mostly just means that I do whatever she tells me.
So that's just fraternally. Okay.
Yeah. And professionally, I work as a customer service specialist at a local state farm agency here in Norfolk.
I will say, getting to know Paul through FRAC, we were quite. I know he wanted an in-person initiation, but trust, we have been trying to get Paul initiated way before this year. So, as much as it sucks that you guys go to a smaller airport now, I'm happy you're out of Atlanta and we finally got you some letters. So, gonna go to the questions we have now. First question, why did you want to / choose to become a member of the organization? And I detect a very common theme is spouses, but how about we just give a little bit more story beyond the story, if you know what I mean. So who wants to go first?
I guess I'll start. So, as I said, I was, kind of hanging around the fraternity since, 2003 at Palm Springs Grand Chapter. And every time I would go, I just would see how the organization worked. A lot of people were, a lot of really good friends were potential and friends that became. It was just, a really great feeling to be around it. And so I'm the type of person where I don't like to do things halfway. So if I'm going to be involved in something, I want to be involved completely. So I had read up about the possibility of being an honorary, and I started campaigning for myself way back, probably in like 2004-ish, give or take, or 2005. And I would pretty much tell everybody that I knew in the fraternity that, hey, if this were ever a possibility, I would love to do it. And some people were supportive of that. Some people told me not this or any other lifetime. And so it was a very long struggle. But I never gave up and I stayed involved as much as we could. And finally, like I said, about 3 years ago, my, goal / dream came true. And now I can be more fully involved. I've been a district director ever since I was initiated. I'm also an officer in the North Hollywood Alumni chapter. And so I'm very involved in that. And so that's kind of where it came from.
As someone that was out there when I first met you, Barry, I was again one of those like, he wants to be a brother? Okay. Rick, what do you say? All right, we'll get this taken care of. Unfortunately, it was done in the pandemic, but yeah. So I'm definitely glad to have you on board, Barry.
Actually, I think it was kind of a nice thing during the pandemic because I was able to have a national ritual team with a lot of people from, all over the place that would not have been necessarily available had it been just a local, in-person situation.
Yeah, that was an awesome day. And getting Arnel to be part of it was even more special because again, initiating an honorary initiate.
Right.
I mean, I'm not saying it's ever going to happen again, but it'll probably be on a short list of 5 to 10. Knock on wood, probably, maybe.
No pressure, Barry, but now you have to initiate an honorary.
Oh,
I
Jesus.
want to. I'd love to. If I ever have a chance.
What about you, Karen?
I didn't seek to be a brother. And I'm not there's no shade in that, Barry, at all. I just you know, Tony's my lifetime partner, and so we do things together. And so whatever I could do for the fraternity, I would do. I just had limitations before I was a brother. Um, like you said, being, stepping out of the room, I wouldn't be, part of anything that I wasn't supposed to be part of, or know about things I wasn't supposed to know about, or anything like that. But I wanted to be as supportive as I possibly could. And I just felt really honored to be invited to be a brother. Like I said, when Tony was initiated, it was an all-male chapter in Edakai at that time. And so that was never, you know, and I didn't go to that school, and, so I never thought about being a brother. I just was a brother's friend. I was the rose. So they had a rose banquet, and I was voted the Rose Queen or whatever, whatever it was, because there was an all-male chapter. And so yeah, I was really honored. I was just really honored to be part of. And like Barry was saying, I mean, we went to all the grand chapters, and we went to the leads when we could. We lived abroad, so sometimes we couldn't, but um we go to the alumni chapter things here, and our alumni chapter has been on and off, as people come and go. But um yeah, it's a really good organization. We've made great friends, and kept good friends, and I just love meeting the new people. Joe Rock is one of my favorite people. I was so sad we couldn't make it to the wedding because Tony was traveling back from Puerto Rico on a business trip, and we just weren't going to be able to make the wedding. But I just love Joe and Morgan. They're great. And so I just, it's a really good organization. It does a lot of really good things. And um, so I'm proud to be a part of it. Absolutely. It's on my resume.
We're definitely happy to have you. And I think on behalf of me, James, Bart, and Cody in Houston, thank you for those brownies. We were very
Oh,
happy.
anytime. I am the brownie maker. In fact, I brought it to Tony the other day. He was going to a meeting, for the chapter. And I said, like, could I just donate a couple pans of brownies, and then you could, like, do a door prize, or, I don't know. And so he did a head count. They had a huge initiate. They have a huge pledge group this fall. And he said there were 35 at the meeting. And I said, okay, I'm not making 35 brownies. That's not gonna happen. But I can make 2 small pans, and then if somebody answers a question right, they get a pan of brownies.
I want to make note, James, Sarah, someone make note of that for Palm Springs in case I forget. But thanks, Karen. And then,
Yeah.
yeah. Speaking of James, you want to go next, Mindy?
Yeah. So I don't have as long as an answer, I guess. Kind of parallel to Barry and Karen so far. Like you said, there's this common theme, right? We're all supportive of our spouse. Um, but I guess where I was more agreeable to it was just because it was a professional fraternity and not a social fraternity. I'm not a partier. If ever anyone's ever heard of the Berkman assessment, I'm a very deep blue person. So I don't like to do the party and the socialization and things like that. So the appeal was more that it was a professional fraternity. And my degree is forensic chemistry. So I'm a chemistry nerd. Um, and so this was a business fraternity, a little bit different than what I was used to. But in the end, I kind of thought it would probably help me, because if I'm working for a big company like Marathon, then I'd have to be a leader. So this would kind of maybe give me some resources for leadership in a way that I wasn't trained in college to be. So a little bit different, but just that's it.
I I know as much as James talks about you, he is very appreciative of it. And again, we know that you're the one that keeps him his head above water. So thank you for that at minimum. Then how about you, Paul?
I mean, not to beat a dead horse, as it were, but I think that it feels like a pretty common thing is all of us got involved because of spouses. And Delta Sigma Pi has been a huge part of Sarah's life. And that's something I wanted to be able to share with her. And just, I also really, really loved going to leads, GCCs, and meeting people. Because I'd never felt like I met anybody who didn't, want me around just because I wasn't a member of the fraternity. And so I wanted to be more a part of that because there were still things, despite everybody being welcoming, that, there are some sessions you can't go to. There are some, things that you just can't be a part of just as a spouse hanging around. And so I did want to be more involved and more a part of that. And I also wanted to be able to, actually contribute beyond, being Sarah's personal driver to and from events.
Hey, we all need that a different type of deity than the fraternity is usually noteworthy for, but we all need that person in multiple ways. So hey, I'm happy to finally have you in. So now we can although I will miss you not being brothers, so I can't go say I'm gonna go skip with Paul since Paul can't do certain stuff. So dang, I didn't think that part through when I supported your initiation. I don't know. We'll find another way to get out of it, man. Last but not least, Mr. Arnel.
Mine's a little different. Of course, I did it because of my ex-wife, but I re-met my ex-wife in '96. I was at Penn State Barron, where the Mu Pi chapter exists, from '90 to '94. '92, I was dating a girl whose roommate was dating Mu Pi 1, the founder. So that's how I knew the letters. I remember I was dating Melissa, Kathy was dating Lee, and I would see these brothers. And back then, see, I don't know how many chapters anymore wear the silk jackets, but I saw the silk jacket, the letters, and I'm like going, oh, that's that. It's not a social fraternity. And they're trying to explain it to me, going, okay. And then of course I'm trying to go, there's women in it and they're called brothers. Okay, let me try to absorb this and all that stuff. And that was my unique thing about it, is because back then my ex-wife saw me and was asking about me, but was told, no, he's dating Melissa, stay away, he's already taken. 3-4 years later, I ran into her and everything starts. So that's my unique take on it. But the cool thing was, the first lead provincial after I was initiated in 2004 was in Pittsburgh. And I got Mu Pi 1 to surprise the chapter. We had a dinner at a restaurant nearby, and we had about 30, 40 brothers from Mu Pi collegiates that came down. It was about 100-mile drive for them. And we had, I believe, 6 to 8 former chapter presidents. And Lee walks in at the last minute. And I was like, it was my gift to the chapter. It's like, thank you for initiating me. By the way, I know Mu Pi 1. Here he is. And he walks in, and everybody's like, because he hadn't shown up in years. And it was just funny because, well, you guys know, whenever you go through initiation, you guys know who the founding brothers are, all that stuff. You get quizzed on it. We're honorary, so we're not officially asked these questions. But he was nervous. He had all these index cards with notes and everything. And I'm like, Lee, what's going on? He's like, dude, every person in there, they know me my entire life. I have to memorize all their names. I have to remember all as their lead. Just be yourself. Just walk in. It'll be cool. No, you can mumble and everybody will be sitting on your every syllable. Don't worry about it. Everything's cool. And it was the most awesome thing. And ever since then, he drops in on the chapter. In fact, at one point, his son had enrolled to go to Penn State Barron and instead went to Penn State main campus. So we almost got him into MUPA.
You Moo Pies are definitely a very fun bunch. So knowing your personality and knowing your Moo Pie, I think even though you're an honorary initiate, it just it fits. It just fits. Um, Next question. Real quick, tell us what some of your favorite experiences as brother, and I'm gonna add a little caveat to it. I feel like there's two different answers to this. There's everything that happened before the pandemic, and then there's everything that happened during and after the pandemic. Even though it's only been 5 years, so so no one has to think back too far. Tell us some of your favorite memories since like 2019 that you've had. Anyone can go, whoever wants.
I'll go for this one. So, um, anybody who knows James, as everybody calls him, uh, he likes to be committed and carry on traditions. And one of our must-dos every single year is to attend the Cincinnati Alumni, or sorry, Central Office open house. So every year in November, we drive out to Cincinnati and we go to the open house. So Claire has been present every single year of her life for the Cincinnati open house. And it's always kind of the same, but it's always a little bit different. I always just look forward to it because, especially the last couple of years, Claire has enjoyed Cody Heimerdinger's office drawing Pixar characters and things like that while everybody else is doing the tour. So it's always kind of a fun day to drive out there, tour the house, even though we've kind of seen it already. We still go and do it all over again, and then we go out to dinner or lunch. And that's I guess it's a tradition now, so it's kind of like now we have to.
I do have one question. Does Claire enjoy going, or do you guys have to pull her by her hair to go these
No,
days?
she actually likes going. And I think the last time she enjoyed it mostly because she got to see two cats. But every year it's different. Oh man, Jim's gonna kick my butt if I forget what's his face with the cheese hat in his office.
Oh, Bill Schilling?
Bill Schilling, he had the cheese hat. So we have pictures of Claire wearing the cheese wedge on her head. She always finds something fun to do there. So it's always fun seeing her get a kick out of it, wearing her DSP sweaters and things like that. So I don't know, that's my favorite, I guess. That and the Bowling Green chapter sometimes does a teeter-totter-a-thon. So we've been there a couple times where they keep a gigantic teeter-totter going for, I think it's 48 hours. So like, yeah, nobody can get off unless there's another person to take over. And so we've gone there the last couple of years too to do the teeter-totter-a-thon, and Claire's been part of that. So it's always just fun to go out and have a whole family thing.
There's so many things I can say and ask about that teeter totter thon, but I no wait till this recording. Wait till that recording's over. But no, that's great. Especially hearing how much of a family thing. I know sometimes when we talk about Deltasig and sometimes people have to take time away from families. Awesome to see how you and James have been able to incorporate DSP into your family life and not have it be secondary or feel like it's taking away from and all that. And it's good to hear Claire's enjoying it because I hear she's very particular with her interests sometimes. So
How
definitely.
old is Claire?
She's
Oh,
8. She just turned 8 in July.
Oh wow.
That's awesome.
Wow. All right, who
So-
else?
My favorite is probably about my son-in-law. So our daughter went to Tech, 5.5 hours, Texas Tech, 5.5 hours away from us. I cried every day before she left, and then when she left. And so she meets this guy, and he's great. He adores her. I mean, he's everything. And it's TJ. He's not a brother, but he's also a business major. And I'm like, well, if he's a business major, why isn't he a brother? Oh, he's in some social fraternity, whatever, whatever, whatever. So we all go to New Orleans and for grand chapter. Well, they're not married. They're not sleeping in the same room. So my daughter went and slept with her grandmother, my mother-in-law, in one room. And then my nephew, Tony's nephew, Troy, came as well. So it was really a family thing. And our daughter came, but our daughter stayed with grandma. And then Troy, our nephew, stayed with our future son-in-law. We knew they were going to get married. I don't think they were officially engaged at that time, but he wasn't a brother. So he went to the things that he could go to. And after the last event, the president's, where we all stand around, put our arms around each other pre-COVID and sing Rosa Deltasig.
Yeah.
Right after that, he turns to my daughter and he says, how do I join? And he became a brother after that. And it was just a really touching thing because I don't think he had any interest prior to that. But he did once he saw us at Grand Chapter. And so, yeah, that was really cool.
Oh man, Karen, you ain't trying to get our heart get us all teary-eyed and stuff?
No, I just think it was really great. I mean, because that's how you realize what a brotherhood it is. And I'm just always impressed by all of the generosity of everyone when we have leads or we have grand chapters and they ask for things for, I think we did Toys for Tots last time, or toys for a hospital or children's hospital or something, I think. And they had so many stuffed animals donated that they couldn't fit them in Tony's truck. That's our brothers, that's our brothers. So it's great.
Oh, it's bad to say. I almost forgot about that stuffed animal drive till you just brought it up, but it was I think Thursday when we went to go take them, it was definitely though we may have had a stuffed animal fight in the FRAC room with them before putting them in bags. It was definitely heartwarming to see brothers from all different backgrounds and chapters coming together for a good cause and a fun cause at that. So it was, yeah, totally.
Mhm.
Anyone else have any good stories, experiences they want to share from the last 5 or so years?
Well, just to throw it out there, one of the things that I liked was getting involved in FRAC because, again, it was a way to connect with people that, quite frankly, I probably would have never had a chance to meet and talk to, because being national as opposed to just being local. I mean, you see a lot of the same people, which is not a bad thing. You see a lot of the same people every, event you go to locally, but then, grand chapters, you get to see more people, but it's even hard there because there's so many people to really try to get to know, whereas FRAC was a lot more of an intimate type of thing. And, it gave me a good opportunity, especially during the pandemic, when we weren't really seeing much of anybody. And it was great to be able to see people that way. And I still have a lot of memories of, and this is pre-initiation, where Friday nights, Tracy would set up the computer on our center island and I'd be cooking dinner at the same time that, I could hear the conversations, and I'd come around every so often and kind of comment on something here and there and go back and, continue cooking. So I thought that was fun. And then, I also enjoy every time I get to oversee, either my chapter or another local chapter doing their initiation and kind of knowing that it's the circle of life continuing on.
Oh, definitely. That's we said we'd be locked up for what, 2 years, and then it was 2 months. I mean, 2 weeks and then 2 months, and then yeah, 2020 it took all of us for a loop.
I'd say post-COVID, the coolest thing I saw, and this goes back to last fall, actually it goes back 8 years. Next week, it'll be the 8th anniversary of my youngest son being diagnosed with leukemia, cancer, blood cancer. He's fine now. He's healthy and everything. But little things have happened since then. Like one time, just driving past a mall, we saw a pickup truck that had a sign on the back window, text so-and-so, my daughter needs a bone marrow transplant. My son had a bone marrow transplant 5 years ago. So we meet this family, become friends with them, all that stuff. That was in May. 2 months later, they have to move to their daughter Clementine's transferred to Children's Hospital in St. Louis. So we maintain touch, all that stuff. At one point last fall, I had planned the trip out to St. Louis. My godmother lives out there. I know several brothers that live out there. So I'm okay. I can kill two birds with one stone. About a week and a half before my St. Louis visit, a prominent member of FRAC, Karen Stabelsky, sends me a newspaper article. The Beta Sigma chapter at St. Louis University fed a family at the Ronald McDonald House. In the background of this photo is the mother of Clementine. And I just lost it. I mean, I still get choked up now just to see that connection, because oftentimes we didn't get to do it because we were initiated afterwards, but the collegiates and alumni chapter, if you're lucky, you do things to, you do your community service, but you don't directly see the effect it has on people sometimes. I got to see a Deltasig chapter feed the parents of a friend of mine, or you know what I mean, what I'm trying to say there. When I went to St. Louis the following week, I talked to Karen, I talked to Jeannie, who's Beta Sigma's DD. I was like, I have to meet this chapter. I have to say thank you. I walk in, I find out when their chapter meeting is. I sneak in the back door the last 30 seconds before they close the door. He challenges me and all that stuff. I'm wearing my Deltasig bowling shirt. I'm freaking everybody out in the room because they're all dressed casually and they're going, is this guy from central office? Who's this old guy sitting in the back of the room? What the hell is he doing here? And meanwhile, the chapter president thought she recognized me because I'd emailed her. I emailed one person in the room and she's like, are you Arnel? I was like, yeah. Oh my gosh. I was like, no, do your chapter business. I'll speak at the end. And they go through their chapter business. They race through their chapter business. She talks to the exec board going, we got to race through the chapter business because he needs to talk to everybody. Like, okay. And I get up and I'm holding my iPad and I'm like going, a lot of you in this room met this family a week and a half ago. And I just explained everything to them. And then I said, I drove 600 miles to say thank you because my kid's going through something similar to what their kid's going through. They're staying in a Ronald McDonald House. They're staying in a dorm 600 miles away from home. They don't know anybody in St. Louis. They're scared to death for their kid. But you guys took the time to provide a meal. And I know that you do community service for the goodness of the chapter. The chapter gets points for doing it, all that stuff. But I just want you to know that it meant something. I saw this a week and a half ago and I decided I'm meeting a bunch of people in St. Louis, but I'm going to walk into a room of 30 strangers and say thank you. And there wasn't a dry eye in the house. And till this day, they still follow me. I still follow them. And about a month ago, I was in St. Louis and school had just started. So it was too late. I couldn't get in. I couldn't make it to a chapter meeting, but it's the power of this fraternity to see that come around, because she just sent me the article out of the blue. It's like, I see, oh, Ronald McDonald House. Oh, Deltasig letters. Look in the back of the photo. Oh my God. I was like, this is cool. And being a part of that, that's what makes it awesome.
Oh man, that's yeah, really going at the heartstring tonight, guy. That's all right though. That's what the fraternity is all about. We're not just a club, we're a fraternity, and a fraternity means a brotherhood, and brotherhood means family, and that's what we do, right?
Yeah.
You got one, Paul?
Vito, if you make me try to follow that with my couple months, I will never read you. But
Well, here's the thing. You can say stuff from when you weren't a brother, but very around Sarah, or from the time you've been a brother, which I know a few things you've done in that short time. So you play at the last 5 years how you want.
I mean, no, I'm going to answer the question as it is. we've had just refranchised the local alumni chapter, and that actually was less than a week after I was initiated, and so it was very cool being able to be a part of that. Just being a part of bringing that back so soon after being initiated, and especially because there are a lot of local brothers here who Old Dominion is a school that a lot of people are from the area that go there, and a lot of them stay in the area. So there are a lot of brothers, and they just didn't have an alumni chapter, and so it feels very good to be able to, try to help. Sorry, it's late at night, and words are hard. Facilitate bringing some of that back together. But I am really looking forward to getting more experiences, having more experiences as a brother, because I have had so many phenomenal experiences. We went to St. Louis this past summer ourselves to visit my little sister, and we met up with 3 different brothers and met up with the chapter because they were having a happy hour. And it's so cool being able to know that wherever we're going, we will know somebody. Somebody will be able to say, hey, you should check this out, or we should meet up. I'm in town. And it's it's very special knowing that that's something that we have.
That's awesome, man. I guess it's just one of those things that makes DSP, for lack of better words. And I guess what makes FRAC too.
I also have one. So someone we all know, who I'm not sure would want me to tell you, but her niece was coming here for athletics or something, San Antonio area. And she said, I'm just concerned about her. Can I give her your number? I said, girl, give her my number. She could text me. She needs anything. I'm here. I got you. And that's how we are. That's how all of us are. I know if I needed Adrian Avalos for anything, he's there. If I needed Vito for anything, he's there, And so Joe, if I needed Joe Rock for anything, I know he'd be there for me. So we just do that for each other. And it turned out her niece was fine. She didn't call me. That's fine. But she knew that she could count on me as a brother, to help out if need be. And I love that about this fraternity. It's a great thing.
I like to say the fraternity, we're not some people say we're a dysfunctional family sometimes. I'm like, no, we're a very functional family. We function very well most of the time in different capacities. We're just a out mess sometimes, and we make up and break up just like any other family would. But I've seen it many times, especially in the pandemic. You've said nothing but a word, and brothers show up in whatever capacity, whether it be physically or virtually or whatever the case may be, and you don't have to say it twice. Sometimes you don't have to finish the sentence. Sometimes you just you get on a call and you see something's off, and you just go asking, "All right, what's wrong? Who do we got to beat up? What's going on?" So it's or who do we not gonna mention names, but all right, tell us what colors you want to paint your place, and we'll tell you which ones don't do or to do. So, great thing about the frat, in my opinion. Moving right along, what you kind of answered this already, but if anyone wants to go deeper into this, what value does being a Delta Sig bring to you? Because obviously, you could have stayed just spouses of people. Uh, Obviously now you can come in the room and know our innermost secrets, as we like to say, and actually feel a part. But is there any extra value that you get that you think you would not have been able to get had you not become a brother? And that could be anyone that answers.
I think the plug and play nature of it. We can, like Paul had said, you could drop in any metropolitan area. Oh, heck, you could drop in a lot of small towns across the nation, and there's a brother there. And it's also cool whenever you run into somebody who doesn't know you're a brother and goes, you're wearing the same letters as me. Wait a minute. Little things like that. And it's amazing that we can go anywhere and just feel at home. That's a cool thing. Like I said, whenever I went to St. Louis last fall, one of the brothers was able to put together a dinner. They had more brothers at the dinner to see me than they did the week prior for the St. Louis alumni chapter. And I was just like, oh, well, he's like, well, we see each other all the time. We see you only online at national events. So we're here. I'm like, okay, cool. Thank you. And that's just awesome because that can happen anywhere. Heck, we could, well, if we go to London, we know once a month we're going to show up in somebody's group photo. And there's not too many associations that you can do that.
You got that right. I think second nature for a lot of Delta Sigs is they go to somewhere new. The first thing they do is call, text, get on Facebook, email, or somehow figure out if there's Delta Sigs in the area to get advice on what to do, what not to do, where not to go. Even though if you're with a certain brother who I think we all know, he's hard-headed enough to go to the places we should not go, like when we were in St. Louis. But the first thing we do is like, there any Delta Six there? Okay. Can I get a drink with you? Can I crash? What should I do? What shouldn't I do? It's just who needs Google sometimes when you have Delta Sigma Pi Facebook groups and phone chains. Um, anyone else want to answer that question? That's all right.
TJ and Allison are in Houston now. If everybody didn't already know that. So they moved to Houston in May. So since they graduated and got married 5 years ago, they've been in Chicago, in Denver, in Jacksonville, and now in Houston. And our daughter has been involved in all of those places. And so Tony logged on to, I guess we're having a provincial, regional something meeting coming up next month in Austin. And our daughter's on on the call. She's going to be on some committee. And so, but when you move like that, it's, you like you said, you know that you have brothers, you can find the alumni group and you can find a place where you can serve as either a DD or on a committee. And, put your talents to good use to help others. So it's really been a good thing.
Definitely. As someone who's moved around the country, well, from coast to coast, really multiple times, I'm not gonna lie. The question of whether there was an active Delta Sig alumni chapter or a large Delta Sig presence definitely was the reason some cities made the list and the reason some cities did not make the list when choosing my next place. And I think being a scared 21-year-old moving to California by myself with no one, even though I had never been to the West Coast, Delta Sig wise, it was a little bit of comfort knowing there were people that I had at least one thing in common with.
Right.
And then the age-old question, are there really any differences between being an honorary initiate versus initiated through, I guess, the usual terms of court?
No one has ever treated me any differently.
Obviously, try to do that, but they can come talk to, at minimum, the people that you gave brownies to, and we can straighten them
No,
out.
I'm just saying, no one's ever reacted poorly when I've told them that.
Yeah. Is anyone ever shocked to find out your honoraries?
Yes.
Some people be surprised, yeah.
I think that there were definitely some people who were surprised before I became a brother that I wasn't. but nobody was ever treat me any differently because of it, and I don't think that it makes that much of a difference. I think that the assumption kind of when you're around is that if you're involved, you want to be here, you must be a member, and so I think that that's kind of one of the defining things of being an alumni participant, especially, is you're choosing to be here. It's not just something you're doing, for a resume line or because it's something your friends are doing in school. You're here because you want to be here. And I don't think anybody's ever, even before I was initiated, said, you shouldn't be here. I think everybody wants, if you want to be there, people want you to be there.
Biggest compliment I ever got, I believe it was 2007 in Orlando. I was in the swimming pool. Joelle Burlett, who at the time was on the board, I believe she was VPF. She comes up to me and she's like, "You're an honorary?" I'm like, "Huh? What are you talking about?" He's like, "I mean, I was just talking to Kathy. I mean, my card at initiation has Kathy Janke's name and Bill Schilling's name on it. So it was just like, yeah, I got one of these cards." And she's like, "No, somebody told me you can't be an honorary." I'm like, "Oh, well." And oddly enough, that it was also a point of contention with me and my ex-wife, where it probably took about 2 years where I eclipsed her in the fraternity. Before I would go to events with her, they'd say hi to her first, and, "Oh, hey, Arnel." And then it took about 2, 3 years after I became a brother, where it's like, "Hey, Arnel." And if she was lucky, they would see her and say hi. Otherwise, they would keep walking. And it was little things like that that Joelle said, "I didn't know you were an honorary. Holy crap." And she was on the board. I was like, at some point, didn't you have to vote for me or whatever to say yay or nay? But cool. You're welcome. I'll do it. This is cool. Okay.
So what I find interesting is the level of involvement that each of you have, and there are so many alumni who joined as collegiates. Some of them served as officers. Some of them were very involved in college, but beyond that, they just haven't been. And I think it's really cool that each of you have been involved in one way or another and supporting the fraternity. So thank you.
That, Katrina. It's definitely when thinking about this whole idea of honorary that's come up over the years, the question always is, the way we get in is one thing, but is there really a difference between honorary brother versus any other brother? I mean, we all from different chapters, from different walks of life, and I say the different classes of brothers would be the ones that are active versus the ones that are not active. So how we get in is not important, but what we do once we're in and how we stay in, for lack of better words, is what differentiates us. Um, so yeah, just knowing all of you, I know brothers that I pledged with, that I have met in my collegiate years, that I still love dearly, but they have fallen by the wayside. Even the ones that were super active, sometimes it's burnout, sometimes it's just it didn't stick. So sometimes I think me and Cody said in St. Louis, there's a certain shine to a Deltasig that chooses to stay, for lack of better words, or chooses to come back at some point, because there's a million reasons to walk away and million reasons that we end up having to walk away because of life. But whether you're honorary or we're initiated as a collegiate, it's finding that reason to come back or stay around is something that definitely I've seen in all of you in my time in the fraternity.
I have one difference. And this is because, like I said before, I'm a chemistry nerd, so I'm also in Alpha Chi Sigma, which is a professional chemistry fraternity. And actually had to do the pledge, process and initiation process for that, and had to memorize all the things. And with honorary, you don't have to memorize the things. So, I can still remember all of my chemistry fraternity things that I have to know. However, when it comes to DSP, I usually have to do a review session with James. What is it again? How do I say it? Because I don't know if it's like, being a parent, you forget a whole lot of things. My brain doesn't function as well, so I always have to like refresh and say, what do I need to know again? How do I do this? So I think that's the difference for me. But as far as being treated any differently, I am 100% with everyone else. I don't get treated any differently. But I do think people are very surprised because I'm like the background person most of the time and not the person on the camera. Um, I also don't like being on camera, so you're welcome.
Yeah, me
But
neither.
but yeah, so like a lot of times since I'm not on camera a lot, I'm not on the phone a lot, I'm not talking to collegiates or anyone about policies until 2 in the morning. Um, Most people don't realize that I'm a brother, and but like once they find out, it's not really a big deal. I don't know.
Oh,
It's the only
definitely.
difference. I mean, I guess
Definitely.
the difference that I've noticed for myself is not so much that people treat me differently. It's just a feeling within me, especially when it comes to, for example, being a district director, trying to help a chapter to do its stuff, and just knowing that I was never in a chapter. So it's almost kind of like, what do I know that's going to be able to help out a chapter when I was never in one? And that's kind of something, a battle that I fight, a lot.
Totally understand. It's definitely one of those where if you haven't had that, it's kind of one of those like, how can I tell them something or know how to do something when I don't have that firsthand knowledge? Even as a DD now, sometimes something triggers you back to your collegiate life of something you may have forgotten. But I can imagine for someone that's a DD and didn't have that experience, there may be things that you have to read up on or think things through or get a second opinion on just because you don't necessarily have that experience. But I will say, from having, how do I put this? From having been a district director a couple times for chapters not very much like my own, there's always a learning curve. Besides the basics of our history, honestly, if we're being honest, if you were not a collegiate in the last 5 years, you may really not. It doesn't matter if you came in through the collegiate way or honorary way. There's some things you just aren't going to know because they didn't do that when I was a collegiate. We didn't do that. What is that? I think there's so many times I hit up James or Cody or we hit up each other and it's like, when did they change this? What is this? Like, wait a minute. What is this crap? So don't feel bad, Barry. Trust us, the us collegiate initiated DDs struggle just like you do sometimes. Trust me. And as the years go on and things change, good thing we have email and text now where we can easily ask questions because I can't imagine how it would have been back in the old days when we've had to actually call everyone to try to get answers.
Mhm.
Right? I was a DD before the internet was much of a big thing. So yeah, can you imagine that? Um, but just again, along those lines, even though you didn't have the collegiate experience, that you had a college experience, and the students are people, right? The chapter members, it's all dealing with personalities and learning and developing. Um, so no matter what your prior experiences, you have pearls of wisdom to share with them.
Thank you. That's certainly good to hear.
Most definitely. It's everyone brings something special to the table. Sometimes very special, sometimes just the right amount of special, but it's all very useful. Is there I guess anything you haven't said that you would want people to know about you as an honorary brother or about honorary initiates that you think sometimes gets misconstrued or you've just had questions over the years that you're just like, maybe I should say this because it seems to be a common one.
I mean, maybe not so much for this particular crowd, but I guess I'll put out in general that, you know, as, non-honorary members of the fraternity, try not to be as anti-honorary. When you see somebody who really wants to be involved, especially if there's somebody that, has a connection and really wants to be involved, I hate the fact that a lot of people are probably could have been honoraries that aren't because they were blocked. And like I said earlier, it took a lot of years. I mean, it was initiated, I believe, in 21, and that's around 18 years from the time I first started hanging out with the fraternity that I finally was let in. And I just think that unfortunately there are too many people out there that are just of the feeling of, unless you join a college, you should never be part. And like I said, not this crowd so much, because obviously, good portion of you are honoraries, good portion of you are the spouses of the honoraries. So, and some of you helped to make it happen. So, it's definitely not this crowd, but just kind of putting it out there that, I wish overall the atmosphere was more welcoming of people that would want to be initiated that aren't.
Most definitely, Barry. It's definitely the work of Delta Sigma Pi, as some would call it, is never ending, and the more people that actually want to do it, especially I think for people that would come in as an honorary, they get to see more of the behind the scenes than I think the average collegiate member. So the fact that you see all that and you still want to join and help us, it's you know, I think sometimes the honorary initiates are sometimes more valuable than someone that was, sometimes I don't think valuable is the right word for it, but sometimes there's a little bit more initial respect I can have for an honorary initiate because they know it's not going to be easy. They know some of the behind the scenes stuff, and yet they still chose to come in. And yeah, hats off to all of you because knowing some of your spouses, I know, you know, the fact that some of you see how busy some of your spouses are with DSP and maybe how stressed they are, and you still chose to join and choose to be around and be active. I one tip my hat to you, but also blink twice if you're not okay. I mean that particularly for yeah, blink twice if you're not okay, or shoot me a message. I can.
I might be blinking right now.
You don't
Well,
count. I
do have to
wait.
say that. So when Tony joined, I don't know if there was a T-shirt or a bumper sticker or something that said Delta Sigma Pi is for life. And I think he took that very seriously. And so when he joined, he's committed, you know? And so I knew that joining was committing, that's how he feels about it. So that's what we do. You know what I mean? And so like I said, I feel honored to be a part of it. I really do, of the brotherhood. And I do take it very seriously. And I am committed to giving and helping and learning and, and growing and changing. I mean, that's what do they say? The only thing constant is change, so.
Yeah. No, definitely. It's a, it's sometimes I've thought about it, especially recently with my alumni chapters wins. Kind of you sometimes think you've done it all and now you can hang up your hat and walk away. And it's like, that one's, as some people have told me since I said that, since the alumni chapter wins, it's like, yeah, that's all fun and good, but it's, it's for life, and there's always something more to be done, even if it's you just showing up to an event or something of that
Mhm.
nature. And definitely getting to know all of you more through FRAC and uh, just as individuals. You guys are amazing, and I'm proud to call every one of you my brother. And before we go, someone who I'm not going to name, but I think y'all might be able to figure out who told me to ask this question, which I think most of you have answered this question before, but I think it's a sanity check as an honorary brother that some people need. Um, so bananas on pizza, how do you feel about that?
Never.
No.
Why?
I'm pretty open-minded. I think if you found the right combination, you could make it work. But like, just as a general rule, probably no. It
I
would
mean,
like
I
need to be
guess
like
if you're
something
gonna
very
make a
specific,
dessert
like
pizza,
No, regular pizza, marinara
no,
Oh,
sauce, cheese,
I'm
no.
thinking
banana.
more like I like a bacon, Canadian bacon kind of thing, almost like a Hawaiian. I
No.
think you can make it work.
I mean, I don't mind pineapple, but banana, just no.
On regular pizza, the only banana that's acceptable is banana pepper.
Amen to that, sister.
Next
Definitely.
up, American cheese on the tomahawk steak. No, I'll leave that for
No.
later.
I mean, since you bring it up, Arnel, I mean, I think it is a good sanity check of I mean, how do you feel about American cheese on a tomahawk steak well done?
Okay, American cheese is just a no. It's just a no.
Let's hear it, Paul. I'm sure you have a response to this that you're like,
Uh,
it's totally acceptable in some ways.
no, absolutely not. Then that's a waste of like perfectly good steak. You've ruined it twice.
I need to know, Mindy, as much as adorable as James can be sometimes, if he presented that to you to eat, what would your response be? The tomahawk steaks and the pepperoni and banana pizza.
So, let's get something straight. I'm the one that presents the food in this house.
Amen to
Well,
that,
that,
sister.
well, that means it'd be even more weird that he just
That
got
would
that for
never
you.
happen.
He can order Uber Eats, right?
It's Findlay, Ohio. We don't really have a whole lot of options here.
True, true. I ain't gonna go there. True.
But I don't even no, nope, none of it. It'll just be he can eat it. He'll eat it all. And he would. He would eat it all.
He would eat it. Oh,
Yeah.
now I have to question my friendship with him. Hmm. I already owe him a wedgie for the stunt he pulled with those awards. You know what? Yeah, I need to come pay a visit down there. Um, but yeah, guys, thanks for your time today. Thank you for everyone who logged on. I'm gonna hit the unrecord button in a moment, and we'll get this up on YouTube and all that. And just remember, it doesn't matter how we got in, but it's what we do once we get in that makes us proud members of Delta Sigma Pi and Brothers. So with that, the magic words are